Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. I didn't steal the sermon, but I did steal the idea and wrote my own. It's one of the few sermons I wrote that I remember at the drop of a hat and can tell you what that sermon did. The title was The All-Important Itty-Bitty Word, and it was a sermon for Easter Sunday morning. The idea was simple. Luke chapter 24 begins with a word that shouldn't be there. It's the word but. Here's how that plays out. At the end of chapter 23, Jesus had been crucified, and he's dead and buried. That's the end of the story. When someone dies, that's it. Certainly that's what the disciples felt all Friday night, all Saturday, and even up until sunrise on Sunday. Despair, hopelessness, forsaken, bereft. End of story. Then suddenly there is chapter 24, which begins with that word but. It shouldn't be there. The story is over with Jesus' death. The human story always ends in death. No. Suddenly there's more. Suddenly there is resurrection. Suddenly there is life. It's a memorable sermon, with the only problem being that you can preach it only once. There's a lot of material in the Bible, and sometimes we get so busy reading the words and trying to get through it all that we plow right through something and never really notice it. We have a great many Bible passages like the 23rd Psalm that we know and keep close to our hearts. But there are also some passages that we've never paid much attention to, and perhaps we should. These relatively unknown passages are refrigerator worthy, something to put there so you see it and read it often. Habakkuk has just such a passage. Habakkuk is an unusual book in that Habakkuk doesn't so much preach to people like the other prophets. Instead, he wrestles with God. His problem is often our problem too. He sees injustice everywhere. He sees violence unchecked. He sees evil prospering, and he sees Babylon rising like a storm on the horizon. And he asks the question we all ask at some point: God, where are you? Habakkuk struggles with the question until finally God answers, but not the way Habakkuk expects. Rather than give Habakkuk pat answers, God gives God's self. By the end of the book, Habakkuk moves from complaint to trust, from fear to faith, and from despair to joy. Not because his circumstances changed, but because his vision of God changed. Here's how Habakkuk puts his insight. Though the fig tree does not blossom, and no fruit is on the vines, though the produce of the olive fails, and the fields yield no food, though the flock is cut off from the fold, and there is no herd in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will exult in the God of my salvation. Habakkuk does not sugarcoat reality. The crops are failing, livestock is dying, the economy is collapsing, and a national crisis is looming. Even so, even so, Habakkuk finds joy is rooted in God's saving character, not in circumstances. His joy is not based on blessings or success or comfort or stability or even answered prayers. Habakkuk doesn't lead us to trust in things like that. Rather, his joy is based on God alone. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord, he affirms. not in the things we would count on, like figs or vines or flocks or fields, not in our possessions or false security, but our self dependence, our abilities. No, Habakkuk finds that his trust is rooted in God. It is in God he rejoices. It is in God he rejoices. Habakkuk lists everything that has gone wrong, and then he turns to another all important itty bitty word, this time the word yet. It's the most radical word in the passage, the most radical word of faith. In the midst of all the wrong, yet I will rejoice. Yet I will take joy. Yet God is my salvation. Yet is the hinge between despair and hope. Yet is the bridge between what is and what will be. Yet is the stubborn refusal to let the world have the final word. This is defiant joy, joy rooted not in circumstances, but in God Himself. A farmer was looking over his farm after a terrible storm. Trees were uprooted, branches were scattered, and fences broken. But in the middle of that field stood one tree, battered, bent, stripped of leaves, but still standing. The farmer said, "That tree's roots go deeper than the storm." That's the faith Habakkuk found in the midst of all the troubles of life. Send your roots deep. Thanks for sharing these moments with me. And remember to let this day belong to God.